I get it. UVE probably walked into a friend's game room, watched a few quick rack-ups, and thought maybe it's time to bring a pool table home. The thing is, you don't want to spend a chunk of your budget on something that ends up gathering dust because it doesn't fit your space, your skill level, or the way you actually want to play. You're also not looking to keep buying extra accessories or dealing with a table that wobbles every time you take a shot. So, before you click Add to Cart, let's talk about whether the Fat Cat Frisco 7.5-foot pool table is the right fit for you and where it really shines or falls short. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the size. A 7.5-foot table is the sweet spot for most home game rooms. It's big enough to feel like a proper billiard experience, yet it'll still fit through a standard doorway with a little planning. If you have a room that's around 12 by 15 feet, you'll have enough clearance for queuing space on both ends, which is essential if you want to practice longer runs without feeling cramped. On the flip side, if your space is more like a cramped basement corner or a tight loft, you might find the table's footprint a bit demanding. In that case, a 6-foot bar-size version could be a more realistic choice. Now, about the playing surface. The Frisco uses FAT's Accuslate surface, which is a type of slate alternative that claims a 7-year coverage warranty. In practice, that means you get a flat, consistent surface without the heavy weight of a real slate. For most casual players and families, this works perfectly. You'll see the ball roll smooth and the speed stay predictable. If you're a serious tournament player who expects a true slate feel, you might notice a slight difference in the way the cue ball reacts to spin, but most home users won't be able to tell the difference in everyday play. The K66 rubber bumpers are another highlight. They're designed to give you a lively rebound, which translates into that snappy feel you hear when the balls strike the rails. In my experience, these bumpers do a solid job of maintaining that liveliness over time. You won't have to worry about the rails getting mushy after a few months of use. However, because they're attached to a lighter frame than a full slate table, you might feel a tiny bit more vibration through the legs after a powerful break. If you're very sensitive to that feedback, it could be a minor annoyance, but for most families and weekend players it's barely noticeable. One practical feature that often gets overlooked is the built-in leg leveling system. You'll find that even if your floor isn't perfectly even, a common scenario in older homes, the table lets you adjust each leg individually until the surface sits true. This is a real time saver compared with having to shim the legs or struggle with wobble during a game. I've seen people try to level a cheaper table by stacking books under the legs, which can look sloppy and cause instability. With the Frisco system, you just turn the knobs, and you're good to go. Included accessories are the kind of thing that can tip the scales from maybe to definitely. The package comes with a set of cues, balls, a rack, and a cover. For a first-time buyer, that means you won't have to run around stores buying the basics separately. The cues are decent wooden sticks, nothing high-end, but they feel balanced for beginners and occasional players. The balls are standard phenolic, so they'll hold up against regular use without chalking up scratches. The cover is a nice extra if you want to protect the felt when the table isn't in use. It's a simple way to keep dust out and preserve the playing surface. Let's talk about who should actually consider this table. If you're a family that enjoys a casual game night, a couple that likes to challenge each other, or a small group of friends who meet up for a few rounds of pool after work, this table fits the bill. The price point is lower than a traditional slate top model, making it accessible for a first-time investment. It also works well for hobbyists who want a decent setup without committing to a professional-grade piece that they might outgrow in a few years. On the other hand, there are clear situations where you might want to pass. If you're a serious competitive player looking to practice with a tournament-standard slate surface, the slight differences in feel and the lighter frame could become limiting factors. Similarly, if you're planning to host local league matches or expect heavy foot traffic and intense play, you might want a sturdier construction that can tolerate the constant pounding without any potential wear on the bumpers or surface. Another practical consideration is assembly. The Frisco arrives in a few large pieces that require a standard set of tools, mostly a Phillips screwdriver and a couple of wrenches.